All right. Sorry, everybody, I was muted. First of all, hello, everyone. I'm Tab Atkins-Bittner. I'll be your MC for the next 3 days of BlinkOn 17. It's very nice to see at least some of y'all in person again now. The rest of y'all that are virtual, still great to see y'all's faces up. I get y'all right there. A couple of us get them over here. It's really nice to see everybody around. It's always a joy. So the next 3 days of BlinkOn will be a mix of lightning talks and single track breakout sessions. So everyone just chill, relax, have a nice time learning from your fellow engineers. We got a few quick notes before we get started. First off, because the way that Meet works, we will be having probably a few more Meet joining notifications showing up. Don't worry, we'll take care of those ASAP, and they shouldn't show up much in the future days. And there's one right there. Because once somebody joins once, they don't have to rejoin to the same Meet again. Second, you can turn on closed captioning if you need to. There's a little button at the bottom of Meet. You're probably familiar with it already. We'll be doing human-generated closed captions before they're uploaded. These videos should be uploaded. We're aiming at the end of the week by the latest, hopefully earlier. We'll see. Like I said, this is a single-track conference, unlike previous ones, so you don't have to decide who to go to. You can just sit back, relax, and soak everything in. So it's always nice. Our official back channel is the Chromium Slack, the BlinkOn channel. If you are not currently a member of the Chromium Slack, you should have gotten an invite link from one of the BlinkOn emails yesterday. If you still don't have that or didn't receive the email, let one of the organizery people, or just need the managery types around, know, and we can get you that. Finally, before we get off of this slide, I'd like to thank Mike Taylor for our beautiful poster image of the stable edition of the web. We were really hurting for a good picture to start off this one with, and Mike came through in spades, honestly. That's just beautiful. I think these are also generated by AI. The horses were. All right, well, that's all the announcements I have to do. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome up Adi and Durrani for our keynote.
Welcome, everyone. This is Dharani Govindan. I'm a senior technical program manager leading web platform projects that we will be highlighting it today. My distributed team is responsible for delivering stabilized projects with clear systems to measure improvements, optimization, and performance metrics.
And I'm Adi Osmani. I'm an engineering lead working with web platform on developer experience. My teams work with Blink to reduce the friction for developers building on the web. Let's get started. So today we're going to talk about things like the importance and progress of browser interop. Why does browser interop matter? Well, this is why it matters. This is what my site looks like anytime I mess with CSS and a feature isn't supported cross-browser. Isn't it beautiful? Interop's important, folks. So now, while we'll be focused on a lot of accomplishments today, we'll also want to give you a tease of something brand new to kick us off. Now, my favorite upcoming web platform feature is view transitions, previously known as shared element transitions. Earlier in the year, Jake Archibald previewed the new direction that we're taking for bringing page transitions to the web, starting with support for single page applications. This was powerful, but it relied on a JavaScript API to function. Now, we saw lots of really positive reactions from developers around this feature. Here's an example from the Astro community who've been really excited to bring native-like transitions to the web. They've been building all kinds of really cool demos using this technology. Now, while transitions for SPAs are great, developers have been asking us about support for MPAs, multi-page apps. And they've been asking us, can you get the same experience or something very similar just using, without needing JavaScript? And the answer is yes. Today, we're happy to share the very first demo of MPA support. Here's same origin, cross-domain navigations, working without the need for any JavaScript. It uses similar CSS to our SPA demo and requires the same view transition markup on both pages. That's more or less it. Now, this has 4 independent animating parts. There's the header, there's the text that's in the header, there's the sidebar, and there's the rest of the page. This works without JavaScript because the rules here are relatively simple. Notice how during this demo, we actually disabled JavaScript and everything continued to work really, really nicely. Now here's the same MPA demo that's just a little bit fancier using some sprinkles of JavaScript. Less than 1 kilobyte of script is used in this version. And that script is basically used to track which thumbnail was clicked and where it appeared on the page. We're just using getBound and client-rect for that. And that allows you to create a slightly more seamless transition. Both our MPA demos have got some shared parts. JavaScript here is just used to enhance it a little bit more. It's really amazing to see the kinds of experiences that this is going to enable. And these are going to be available in Canary for developers and you to try out. And we're excited to see what people build. Thank you so much to Jake Archibald, who has been working on these demos hard. We just wrapped these up about 40 minutes ago. Moving on from animations, the theme of this year's BlinkOn is stability. This is core to all of software design. It's a word that means fixed, not likely to move or change, and stability is pretty important for web developers. Now, there are many synonyms for stability, and today we're going to talk about it from a few different perspectives. There's the dependability that comes from interop, there's the fastness that comes from quicker user experiences, and the safety and security that comes from a platform that cares about keeping users safe with their privacy in mind. With that, let's kick things off with demographics.
So the open web brings diverse and rapidly evolving ecosystem to organize for people. It is a platform where everyone's voice can be heard, regardless of who they are, where they come from. We want to acknowledge the richness of backgrounds of those who actually build the platform. While people attending BlinkOn from all over the world, it is great to see the people coming together from so many different countries. Well, most of the BlinkOn attendees reside in North America. There are 14 different countries represented here. We inherited the fun tradition on Chrome stats. It's always exciting to look to see who is making the most Blink contributions since last BlinkOn. Across all Chromium-related repositories, Igalia, Microsoft, and Intel have made it the largest contributions by commit count. Individual contributors, when taken together, also represents a significant chunk of non-Google contributions. Zooming in a bit more to Chromium contributions, Igalia definitely stands out. They enable organizations who don't have browser teams to commit in the Chromium project. All taken together, in the past 7 months, we saw 257 intent messages to Blink Dev. 90 of those announced an implementation, 49 experimentation, 93 to ship, and 25 of those intend to deprecate or remove features. That's a lot. It is clear that you have all been very busy over the last 6 months. Thank you for your contribution to the Blink project and being part of our community. Thank you. Tens of thousands of commits from dozens of organizations and many more individuals. Let's have a closer look at a few specific members of our community. First up, Igalia, who have been made many contributions to the Chromium and related projects. The pseudo class has, and the MathML are some of the efforts soon will be shipping in milestone 109. Later on during BlinkOn, we will have a session giving updates after as enabled. They've also been continued with their contribution on NPArc, accessibility, V8, and more. We will be covering more of their achievements in today's presentation. Microsoft has also made extensive contributions spread out across multiple functional areas. They have delivered improvements across the board, shipped CSS features like custom highlight, custom formats, and new PWA features such as window overlay, window control overlays, along with many memory and stability optimizations. Here are a few more improvements on dev tools, accessibility, and automation. Intel has focused on improving performance across platform, starting with SIMD, converting SIMD 128 code to SIMD 256 for further speedups. They're also focusing on the heterogeneous compute, making certain threads can schedule them to the right type of core. Samsung has focused on device capabilities, improvements in identity, and various other performance and code health improvements. Almost a quarter of all the non-Google commits were made by the individual contributors on Chromium's functionality, compatibility, reliability, and security. Thank you. Each and every one of these contributions is very much appreciated to grow our community.
Thanks, Tarani. So it's amazing to see all the ways that the Blink community is moving the web forward. We're going to talk more about this work soon, covering areas such as code health, user experience, and capabilities. But first, let's talk about interop. A superpower of the web is cross-browser interop, but browser compatibility continues to be a top developer pain point. The good news is that major browser vendors have been working together to continue addressing this. In 2021, 5 styling features were a core focus of interop. Great progress was made on stability and compatibility across things like sticky positioning, aspect ratio, flexbox, grid, transforms. And in 2022, the teams took this to the next level. So Interop 2022 included areas like containment, layers, subgrid, dialog, color spaces, and so much more. The collective goal here is to ideally complete this list by the end of the year. And there's lots of developer excitement here about the possibilities. So how are we looking? Well, the great news is that we're looking pretty good. We've significantly increased interop for 15 high-value web features, and our work's not done yet, but we are getting there. This wouldn't have been possible without input and review by Apple, Boku, Google, Igalia, Microsoft, Mozilla, and many, many more. So thank you so much. We're going to take a sneak peek at some of these features just to remind ourselves about their powers. So first up, we have cascade layers, which allow developers to customize, control, and orchestrate the cascade. This is great for preventing style specificity conflicts, and it's recently stable across browsers. We also now have cascade layer support in DevTools. Here we can see the different cascade layers in the Elements panel for components versus libraries, and it makes it just a little bit easier to manage your customizations. Next up, we have container queries. They are shipping in M105. Now, this is a powerful new feature for doing component-based responsive designs. Cross-browser support is underway. Apple started shipping size container queries in Safari 16, and Firefox has also started implementing this work. We also have a great polyfill available for folks who are prototyping at the moment. And similar to the last one, DevTools support is there, lets you inspect and debug CSS container queries in the Elements panel. And you might also be interested in checking out Una Kravat's new article on how container queries can be used with has selectors, which are also supported in 105. Now, next up, we've got color. Color management is exploding with new features in 2022. We have color spaces, more colors, built-in color manipulation, auto contrast functions, and these are all goals in Interop 2022. Coming soon to Chromium, we also have color mix supports. This takes 2 color values and returns the results of mixing them together, given a color space by a given amount. It's pretty cool stuff. And a notable mention is accent color. This is also available cross-browser. It's a single CSS property that brings you brand color to built-in elements and forms, and it makes sure that there's proper contrast between your color, your checkboxes, and your tracks too. It's very cool stuff. Now, what's next? Well, of all the ideas I've been pitching for CSS, they've mostly been questionable. I should probably not be responsible for that topic. But thankfully, there are much smarter folks in the browser landscape who've been thinking about the future. And so we've recently launched Interop 2023. It's received over 80 proposals for features that we'd like to make interoperable in 2023 with input from the larger web dev community. We're now evaluating the proposals. Submissions are closed, but we're evaluating all these proposals. Thank you to everybody who signed up to work on this topic. Please do help out. The more Blink contributors who are passionate about interop and can help out here, the better. Let's talk about capabilities. So the web is a powerful platform, but there are still gaps in what it can solve. And Project Fugu, the capabilities project, is a cross-company effort that's been making it possible for the last couple of years for web apps to have the same capabilities as platform-specific apps by exposing capabilities to these platforms to the web. Now, while maintaining user security, privacy, trust, and other tenets, we're hopeful that we can give developers something powerful that lets them build better apps. So let's take a trip down memory lane just to remind ourselves what's now possible with Fugu. Fugu shipped over 15 new capability APIs this year, 15. A big thanks to the Blink community for all of their contributions here. The local font access API is one of my favorites. This allows developers to access users' locally installed fonts and obtain low-level details about them. We've also got the multi-screen window placement API, which allows developers to place content on specific screens so that they can multitask. I'll be using this to stress about the stock market and its decline on multiple screens, which I'm looking forward to. Thank you, Web Platform. Now, Windows Control Overlay is another new capability that's available. This allows developers to make their installed desktop web apps look like native apps, giving you control of the entire window, including the title bar area and window control buttons. A big thank you once again to the Edge team for their work on this awesome feature. Love seeing this come together. Let's also talk about PWAs. So a lot of the time, historically, if a users wanted to install a PWA, an info bar and a modal would show up with some very minimal information. And that's pretty different to the experience that you tend to get from a native application store. And that can leave them confused. To enable developers to provide slightly better experiences that are on par with native, we have a new install surface, Richer Install. This allows developers to add a description and screenshots to their manifest file and have it appear in a bottom sheet. Really nice stuff. And we've also made improvements to the web APK installation process. We're removing things like the service worker requirement for installation. Users can now get notified when web APK installs are complete, and apps will also be able to change their names. Finally, it's so great to see stability for developers with stronger cross-browser support for the File System Access API. This makes it possible for apps to easily and efficiently have file access, provides a great way to create, open, read, and write files directly. And it also allows you to create directories and enumerate their contents. Really happy to see the progress made on cross-vendor support here. And it's also been really nice getting to use this via applications like Photoshop for the web. Next, let's talk about how we're approaching user experience for Web Platform. Performance continues to be a really big area of focus, including benchmarking and real-world performance. Let's start off with benchmarking. Now, we're happy to share that we've been collaborating with vendors, including Apple and Mozilla, on the next generation of the speedometer benchmark that resembles real-world performance with updated workloads. A shared governance model has now been aligned on, and we're really excited to make sure that the benchmarks are as reflective as possible of how developers are building for the modern web. Now, earlier in the year, with the help of optimizations across V8, Sparkplug, and many other areas of Blink, we achieved the highest ever speedometer score ever in Chromium, a 300. Since then, we've gotten 20% faster on speedometer. That's since the last BlinkOn, a total of 27% faster for the year, scoring a 360. We're now 167% faster on MotionMark and 43% faster on Jetstream. These are absolutely fantastic accomplishments. A big thank you to the rendering, graphics, V8 team, and many, many others for all of their contributions here. Now, speaking of V8 and JavaScript, on the language front, there are two newer features that are shipping. We have change array by copy and symbols as weak map keys. Currently, weak maps are limited to only objects as keys, and this can be a limitation for weak maps, as the goal is ideally to have unique values that can be eventually GC'd. This latter proposal allows symbols to be used as keys in weak maps and weak set. Now, while benchmarks are great, it's also really, really vital that we measure real-world performance metrics and how we're doing on those. We've continued to see big improvements in the number of sites scoring good on the Core Web Vitals quarter to quarter. We're now at 42% of origins that have good scores across all of the metrics. This wouldn't be possible without optimizations being made to Blink and Chromium, as well as huge investments being made by the developer ecosystem. We know that there's room to continue evolving the metrics, starting with interaction readiness. Now, over 70% of our users have a very unresponsive interaction in any given week, waiting over 1 full second after they interact with a page for any visual feedback whatsoever. We can do better there. We're excited about the new Interactions Next Paint metric and have recently landed support in DevTools for an interaction lane to help you debug slow interactions. INP is, of course, supported in a number of our tools, including places like the Chrome UX report and Lighthouse. Now, speaking of INP, we're happy to announce an improvement that just shipped. We just launched Prioritize Rendering After Input. This is a Blink scheduler change that improves responsiveness by prioritizing rendering in response to discrete input events. INP improved by 10% at the 75th percentile and 20% on Android at the 95th percentile. Overall, INP pass rates improved by 1.4%. This is a huge accomplishment. Really happy to see this get shipped. Now, single-page application support in our performance metrics is really important to web developers. We've been hard at work on a set of new soft navigation heuristics for detecting SPA navigations and are really excited to iterate on this work and collaborate with run providers and developers to keep the metrics representative of modern experiences. Here in DevTools, you can see soft navigations with their own Core Vitals metrics. This is visualized in Canary and is something that developers can begin playing around with, while noting there's still a lot of work to be done here. It's a long road forward. Next up is back forward cache. With the BF cache, loading previous pages is essentially instant, and that's because entire pages can be restored from memory. BF cache is now enabled on Android and on desktop. We're excited to improve it so that it kicks in a little bit more often. We're working on an unload policy to unlock more BF cache navigations, pending beacon to send beacons when the page is discharged without blocking BF cache, and a new API to help developers know why BF cache didn't necessarily trigger. We're also working on better pre-rendering. We launched pre-rendering in Chromium for journeys from the Omnibox and across the same origin. And these have resulted in visible improvements to the end user experience. We're also really excited for developers to have access to new primitives like the Speculation Rules API, which let them define which outgoing links can be prepared speculatively before a navigation. It's been a terrific year just generally for performance primitives. Developers have access to new ideas like priority hints, which allow you to make a one-line change to your images, which can greatly improve LCP. We've seen eBay, YouTube, Etsy, and many other sites now taking advantage of this. We've also got early hints, which allow the browser to take advantage of server think time by doing work in advance. We have better scheduling APIs and features like lazy load, which are now cross-browser. Truly exciting times. Now, wrapping us up on user experience, we also have identity on the web. FedCM is a browser API proposal for privacy-preserving identity federation. This is great because it mitigates the impact of third-party cookies and our phase-out. This is shipping in Chrome 108. Mozilla is also starting an implementation of FedCM, and Apple's also become a member of the FedID community group. We're excited to see this work move forward. Now, we know that a lot of folks have been working on user experience, code health, and refactoring efforts. Never easy. Thank you to everybody for their contributions here. I'm going to hand things over to Durrani, who's going to talk about security, privacy, and some of our code health areas in Blink.
Privacy and security are the top priorities of the web platform. It is there to respect and defend our users, developers, and the internet. We have been working hard to protect people's privacy online and give companies and developers tools to build thriving digital businesses. The Privacy Sandbox reduces cross-site and cross-app tracking while helping people to keep online content and services free for all. Since the last BlinkOn, we have extended the timeline for third-party cookie deprecation to Q3 2024 to allow for more developer testing of the Ads API. Ads API origin trial are now at 5% traffic. We encourage the developers to test them all. Partition Alert is now a standalone library and has been delivered to PDFM. Miracle Pointer launched to Windows and Android platform. We see in the graph, this is the one taken before the Miracle Pointer is implemented. And with Miracle Pointer, it protects about 60% reported use after free security issues. You can see that in the blue ones. Web isolation. So of those, there are two things that we want to point out. One is the anonymous iframes is now in origin trial. When the top-level document is released after a navigation, the storage used by the anonymous iframes can be cleared by the browser because it will never be used anymore. The next one is the private network access preflights that restricts the website to send requests to servers on private networks. and is now shipping. The next one is on the sanitary APIs. The HTML sanitary API is an API that sanitizes the untrusted HTML for insertion into the DOM, minimizing risk of unintended script execution. It is shipped in Chrome 105. It's a Code Health. Code Health is about making systems simple to understand and maintain, leading to increased velocity, decreased developer frustration, and the ability to create excellent products easily. For the past 7 months, we landed around 735 CLs. There's been a lot of progress on the Code Health initiatives. We completed base callbacks. GN checks are now enabled. Python 2 to Python 3 migration is done. Those are a lot of accomplishments. Product excellence. Of course, some of the most impactful contributions aren't new features, but about making our existing functionality work better for users and developers. Since last BlinkOn, you all fixed 1,600 plus high priority bugs. Thank you. We use star count as one indicator of importance to developers. Here are the 3 fixes with the most developer appreciation since last BlinkOn. Product excellence. To continue with that, we have invested in better helping Google teams triaging incoming bugs and manage their P0 and P1 backlogs better to be more consistent in how we are treating the incoming bugs and their incoming bug reports through their life cycle. And also working on increasing the feature data correctness. There's also focus in monitoring and continuously improving the stable channel regressions. Layout NG is 100% complete. It is a 5-year hard work. An example of user benefit, we have removed performance clips that web developers can run into. Here we have simply nested grid layout inside each other. Previously, this could cause the layout time to go exponential, taking seconds worth of time. With NG, this class of bug has largely been removed due to their new caching logic. Secure payment confirmation is a web API that brings strong phishing-resistant authentication to payment flows with cryptographic evidence that the user has confirmed the transaction details. As we are experimenting these experience with our partners, we also provided opt-out experience for SPC. Users can request an relying party to delete information stored on them, and this request is returned to the website to handle. Apart from that, we also finished basic card deprecation and removal, removing 10,000 lines of code. WebGL rendering context will be restored even if Chrome's GPU crashes, process crashes, or a graphic driver bug is hit while running WebGL. This restoration improves robustness, and this was primarily motivated by Google Meet and other video conferencing customers. All right, moving on to standards. Standards promotes consistency in the design code, and it is an important factor for the interoperability. So let's have a quick look at one of the projects. WebGPU's major implementation tasks are all done. We are getting closer to finalize our spec work to release the initial version of WebGPU. So start building WebGPU apps today and test in Canary via command line flag. We are working with and incorporating the feedback from partners like Babylon and Adobe. As the last segment, we're almost there, I'm excited to talk about a few efforts for developers. Developers often build for the web using a framework, CMS, and other abstractions. It is of great value for the browser community to understand how developers are building for the modern web and maintain a two-way conversation here. When debugging applications using Chrome Dev Tools, authors only want to see just the code, not that of the framework underneath. It is now possible to automatically avoid code that they don't want to see or step through via a new extension to source maps. This is visualized here thanks to the Angular framework integration. Recently, more improvements have been made that will help make debugging apps built with frameworks easier. Web developers often say that testing across the browsers is one of the pain points. WebDriver is the standardized way to automate a browser, and on this front, we have clear milestones for WebDriver BiDi. This is the next generation browser automation protocol being worked on between browser vendors. We look forward to it eventually making testing on the web just a little smoother. All right. So what's coming next? We have another keynote coming up tomorrow where Jim Bankowski will talk a little bit more about this. We hope you all join in. We are really excited for the future of the web and couldn't be doing what we could do without the entire Blink community. On behalf of everyone in Blink, thank you and enjoy the rest of the BlinkOn 17.